How's it going, everybody? In this video, I'm going to be talking about how to be happy while being lonely. The first thing I want to do is sort of distinguish the difference between being alone and being lonely, right? So this video is going to be about things that you can do when you're lonely to feel more happy instead of being alone, right? Being lonely is where you're actually feeling the desire or need for more social stimulation, as opposed to, just being alone. There's things that you can do alone that can make you more happy, but don't necessarily mean that you're lonely or want or need more social stimulation. So, now that we kind of have our sights honed in on what loneliness is, which is the need for more social stimulation, obviously the path here to solve for that is to increase the amount of stimulation that you have in the social sense. And it's pretty common to feel lonely just because the vast majority of people need an amount of social interaction to really feel fulfilled, right? One of the strongest predictors or drivers of happiness is having a sense of community and some strong social ties. So, not having those can very much and very often influence people negatively. So, you kind of have two options here. I mean, there are more than this, but the two main things that you can do if you're feeling lonely is either to sort of change your relationship to the feeling or sort of your relationship with your level of social interaction at the moment, or you can increase your social interactions, right? You can solve loneliness by interacting with more people. Now, we'll start with sort of changing your relationship to the feeling. One of the first things that you can do is sort of accept the feeling as something useful instead of trying to fight it, right? A lot of times with negative feelings and emotions, people try to fight them and push back against them. In reality, these emotions are a natural part of our existence and they are sending us important signals that we need to follow to optimize for our happiness in our life and whatnot. So loneliness is not, oh, there's this horrible thing, I feel lonely, I should just, mope around or whatnot. It is something, it is your mind and body saying, we need more social stimulation. So that's one frame that helps a lot of people, is to understand the meaning of your emotions instead of fighting them, accepting them as a useful signal for what sort of action to take. The second piece of changing your relationship is dissecting sort of this negative self-talk that often accompanies loneliness, right? So you might have the feeling, but you might compound that feeling with ideas like no one wants to spend time with me, or no one likes me, or I don't have any friends, or things like that. Now, one of the best ways to sort of diffuse some of these thoughts is asking from the frame of, is this useful, right? Are these useful thoughts? So if you think no one likes me, is that a useful thought? Does it help you get closer to increasing stimulation or doing something? And obviously the answer there is no. Another thing that you can do is sort of try to look at other potential answers for the same thing, right? Instead of no one likes me, it could just be that everyone's busy, right? Maybe you have a Wednesday off and everyone's at work. Sometimes these thoughts, as they present themselves in a negative light, are just either not useful or they're not really accurate. So looking at sort of these other different angles can help loosen up the hold of this feeling over you. Now, the second option for being happier when you're lonely is to increase social stimulation. And I think a lot of times people naturally gravitate toward or sort of deepen this hole by thinking, I really wish I had someone really close to me that I could spend a lot of time with. And obviously that's, nice, ideal in a lot of cases, but a lot of times that's also not really an option. So here are a couple things that you can sort of do, most people should be able to do, and that can help to a degree, right? It may not fully make the emotion go away, but it can help. One thing that you can do is just, call people or text them or communicate with the people that you already know, even though they may not be physically in the same space or close. In the same way, if you don't have anyone specifically that you can text or call or anything like that, you can go online, look at like social media, chat rooms, other types of online engagement. But the important piece there is to actually comment and engage and have some sort of communication. If you just scroll through a feed and look at all the stuff that everyone's doing, that is definitely not going to make you feel less lonely. But if you go through and send a bunch of messages and contact a bunch of people, then more likely than not, you're going to get some number of responses, even if it's not every single one, right? And that's another piece of this. If you're going to use these strategies, then you should be sending out a lot of stuff. Because, one individual person might be busy or not see the message or whatever else. So you need to use the most sort of options or opportunities that you have at your disposal. And another thing that you can do, some people may not be comfortable with this, but it is an option, is to just go out into the world, right? Some social public space and strike up a conversation and try to engage with people. Now, I know all of those ideas may not be ideal or exactly what you're looking for when you're feeling lonely, but since it's a signal for a need of more social stimulation, all of those things are social in a way and can help reduce this feeling and allow you to sort of move forward. Now, obviously, the most common thing here is some of this reaching out and stuff for a lot of people is going to produce some feelings of sort of anxiety, right? Something around like, oh, I don't know what to say, or I don't think these people want to talk to me, or whatever else. More often than not, you're just going to have to use sort of some of the same tools to say like, okay, anxiety is a normal emotion. People are naturally wired to be worried about how they get judged, so I'll have to kind of work through this and accept it. So either way, you're going to have to sort of work through these emotions, but that's the path that is most likely to help you become happier and sort of resolve this emotion in a meaningful way. Now, I've kind of talked about this mostly in terms of if you're feeling immediately lonely, right? But if this is sort of a pattern in your life, then it's definitely worthwhile to look at other steps that you can use for increasing the strength of your social circle. Obviously, this can be really difficult depending on the circumstances in your life, but for the vast majority of people, it is very important. So here's a couple ideas that you can do there that might help a little bit. One that I've found some use with is sort of making a schedule for reaching out to people. So setting up my calendar so that it says like, every once a month, have me call my brother, or once a month, have me call my mom, or whatever else. That really helps a lot. It might seem a little contrived, but it's actually really nice to know that these constant contacts are built into your life and schedule in a way that you are going to maintain these relationships that are important to you. Another system that people use or that has worked is sort of finding an app or some way to basically talk to a new person every day, right? By like getting on social media and leaving a comment for somebody, or if you take public transportation, trying to talk to someone on that commute or whatever else, just finding a way to introduce more connections into your life in a way that doesn't put a ton of pressure on them, right? Because again, a lot of times this loneliness is related to not having really, really deep and rich relationships, but you can't have those really deep, rich relationships if you don't start somewhere. So having a sort of system that allows you to create a lot of these superficial, right, or just surface level connections gives you the opportunity to deepen some of them if the opportunity arises. Other things you can do, you can join, a community or a group or a class, something that sort of meets together around a particular idea or interest. That works really well for a lot of people. Another really useful habit to get into is inviting other people to activities you're going to. So as you sort of develop your social circle, you can bring other people in and sort of connect other people. That's a really great way to keep the ties strong and keep expanding things. And the last idea I've got on that front is to volunteer, right? A lot of people find a lot of useful interactions and communications with volunteering. It's kind of a double win here because, you're doing something nice for people, but a lot of people feel extra nice when they're volunteering or helping in some way, as well as you're going to get some of that communication and socialization time that you need when you're feeling lonely. So, of course, there are a million other ways, and I don't want to make this video, solely on how to develop a strong social network. Though there is probably a lot to be said there, and that's probably something useful to look at and develop skills around if you're feeling lonely. But specifically for this video, I just kind of want to focus on things that can help alleviate loneliness and have you feel a little bit happier. On to the reflection questions. 1. How do you usually deal with loneliness? 2. How are you cultivating your social circle? So hopefully that gives you a couple ideas of things to try and sort of look at if you're feeling lonely. That's all I've got for this video. So as always, if you have any questions, comments, topics you want me to cover, throw them down in the box below. I'll get to them as soon as I can, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please take a second to subscribe, as it really helps out a lot. If you're looking for more content, there's all sorts of information over at howtohappy.com. And if you want something a little bit more condensed and concise, I've also written the book Mindscaping, which is essentially a framework for optimizing happiness. So we'll have the link there as well. And that's all I've got. Thanks again. I'll see you next time.